Good evening, everybody, and welcome back to another live stream here on the Speed Force Racing YouTube channel. Today, we will be racing Season 15, Round 10 of the Saudi Arabia Grand Prix here in Jeddah. Absolutely lovely track. It's quite of a tricky one, hard to have races on. I've raced here yesterday, actually, and there were quite some nice overtakes and every now and then, but it's a very tricky corner, well, track in general, but there are some tricky corners around the track. You know, you've got sector 1, you've got that fast left right hander, you've got sector 2, also a very fast right left hander, a little bit of a chicane, another chicane in sector 2, and then sector 3 is quite of an easy one, but definitely not to be underestimated. But we've got many people on the starting grid today. We've got 19 people in the lobby, and there's quite some people who I think are going to be able to get pole tonight. We might be able to see Oliver in P15. Currently still in P15, but he might be able to get into P1 today after an excellent qualifying last week. We have some other guys, such as Cassidy, such as both the Red Bulls actually, Calvin Racing, currently in P18. Might be able to put something great on the table too for us today. And we've got Alex Hogg in P8. Energy Dan might be up to get into the top 10. And we've got Keeves, of course, on a good streak lately. I'm not sure whether he's going to be able to get that done today, and if he's going to continue that streak, of course. Mark Werty out on track once again, being the first driver on the grid who is out on track. And, you know, Saudi Arabia, quite of an iconic track since 2021. Not a very iconic track, but there has been some things happening around Saudi Arabia, such as the Lewis Hamilton versus Max Verstappen incident in 2021, if I'm not mistaken, or yeah, it was 2021. Let me have a quick look with the chat. Alex Haw, if Tashkern gets top 5, he is getting 4 breezers. I'm rooting for him. A watermelon. There we go. Alex Haw in the chat. He's also a racer, currently in P8, still hasn't put a qualifying lap on the board. Smoke, currently in the chat. Mansell, one to watch tonight. Mansell, definitely a chance. Definitely a possibility to get into the top 3, possibly pole tonight. But I think his race pace is more outstanding than his qualifying paces, so I'm definitely rooting for him to get that race win today. It's quite of a fast track too, so you need to be consistent with the penalties, with the damage, with all that kind of stuff. And I think Mansell is the type of guy who doesn't usually get a lot of penalties, but still is able to perform a great, excellent performance out on track. We're currently on board with Mr. Mark Werty. as he's our go-to guy to look at the track and all that kind of stuff. Into turn 1, hard braking zone, into the second, then into the third to have a better traction coming through that corner. We've got turn 3, turn 4 coming up ahead, a fast left-hander, and we've got a fast right-hander. It's going to be turn 5. Very long right-hander, and then we've got a very long left-hander. Quite of a interesting corner section there into turn 8, into turn 9, and then we've got turn 10. And it seems like Mark Werty is struggling a little bit here in Saudi Arabia. As of course Saudi Arabia has a green flag with white letters in it. Well, is it a letter? I'm not sure. Do they use letters? I think they do use letters, don't they? Through sector 2 at the moment, and this was the fast right left-hander which I was talking about. Then you've got a DRS opportunity coming through that part of the track. Then you've got a fast left right-hander. The DRS wide open for Mark Werty. Now we've got that fast left right-hander. Watch out for that curb on the exit. And he takes that beautifully, but I do think there's still some time to gain in his lap, as he's currently in P12. Still hasn't put a time on the board. This is the first driver who will put a time on the board, and it will already give us a great clear view of what the time will be. Welcome, Melissa. Evening, Thomas. Keeves is going to be up there today too, hopefully 100%. I think Keeves is definitely going to get into the top 10, maybe even top 5. Might want to go on board with him as he's coming around the last corner. Is on a fast lap, I think. So he's going to come across the line and possibly put the pole time on the board already. A 127.6 for the Alpine driver. As Gas just came across the line with a 128.8. Calvin Racing also on a fast lap coming around the last corner. And what will the Red Bull driver be doing? Possibly will we be seeing a 126 tonight. But I'm doubting it quite. Ooh, a 127.9 by Calvin Racing. So does this mean that Keeves has a lot of pace here around Saudi Arabia? Could possibly be Doran, Keeves' teammate, coming around the last corner. And what will the Alpine driver be doing coming around the last corner? Down the straight, DRS wide open, and a little bit of ERS as he puts himself in P6, a 129.3. Who usually is up there at the top 5? Mansell is one of them, Cassidy is one of them, but they haven't come out of the pits yet. Mindful Wasps is definitely someone to consider, as he's currently coming through sector 2. Beautiful corner section. You do need to watch out for your wings. I think there's going to be many wings replaced here around Saudi Arabia. Although surprisingly enough, yesterday I didn't see too many people changing their wings, as Mindful Wasps just has put the fastest second sector going through that third sector. DRS wide open, and a very interesting thing that is going to happen here during that DRS detection point is the drivers will most likely slow down for the guy behind them to pass them, so that they have DRS down this straight. A 127.5 for Mindful Wasp at the moment. It seems like none of the possible pole time setters have come out on track yet, except for Mansell. He's on an outlap at the moment. He's got that Aston Martin right in front of him. Might have been Alex Hawk, as of course Mark Werty is currently in the pits. And also Tashkern is coming into the pits. The Mercedes driver has put himself in P8, a 129.2. Not a bad lap at all for Tashkern, as some of the guys in the chat were rooting for him, including Alex Hawk. Apparently, if he gets top 5, he gets 4 breezers. Not sure what a breezer is, but fair enough. Quite cool. If I'm being honest, I have no idea what it is, but it's probably quite cool. Mansell, and it seems like his lights are blinking. I'm not sure why that is actually during the qualifying, because guys haven't used many of their ERS yet, so the lights shouldn't be blinking too much. As he's coming through that last part of the track, he needs to watch out for Alex Hawk, or will Alex Hawk come into the pits, who might be able to benefit from that slipstream from the Aston Martin driver. Here he comes around the last corner. What will Mansell be doing? Yellow flags in sector 3. That will be Alex Hawk taking distance from the Haas driver. And here comes Mansell. Down the straight he goes. DRS wide open into turn 1. Hard braking zone into second gear. Then into third gear. So he's got to watch out for that Williams around the outside there. Came out on track. But he just took enough distance to the Haas driver so that Mansell could take that corner beautifully enough. Beautiful line there from Mansell already. So apparently Smoke says the light is blinking because they are not deploying ERS on the hot lap. But I mean, the thing is, they're still able to deploy ERS on an hot lap, so that doesn't make too much sense though. Because in a race, when you're not deploying any ERS, your lights are not blinking. You're still able to use ERS on an outlet. You just have to disable that. Might be a qualifying thing though. Oh, beautiful line there from Mansell. He's got the fastest second sector at the moment. The DRS wide open, and it also depends on how much... Yeah, I know they turn it off, but that doesn't mean that the lights are not blinking, right? That doesn't have anything to do with each other, because if they were to disable that during a race 2, their lights would be blinking during the race 2, but they don't. Mansell in P3 with 127.8. Only 3/10 away from Mindful Wasp. Mindful Wasp is still on pole at the moment. Might want to go on board with Utkarsh here. Williams driver, quite of a fast driver, as that AlphaTauri just came out on track. And they need to watch out a little bit because the Williams driver is on a fast lap. Look at that. Utkarsh flying through Sector 1 at the moment, playing around with the curbs, playing around with the walls on the exit. And as he's just entered Sector 2, quite of a fast sector already from Utkarsh, puts himself on a provisional pole time as he's put the fastest first sector. As the AlphaTauri driver has left enough room for Utkarsh to get past. Someone is parking down the inside. That is the Aston Martin. That's why it's blinking and it doesn't when it drops below 10% battery. Agree to disagree, Smoke. Agree to disagree. It's, by the way, 20%, not 10%. Here comes Utkarsh. Around the last corner goes the Williams driver. And what time will it be for Utkarsh? A possible pole time for the Indian driver. Will he make his country proud? It does look like it. Coming across the line to put himself in P3. He lost a bit of time in Sector 2 and Sector 3. Smoke, can you send me where you found that fact? I think you're just being a little bit subjective instead of objective. Can you send me where you found that information, please? That would be you showing me that I'm wrong, which is not happening very often. Don't want to sound very cocky, to be honest. Oliver coming through Sector 2 at the moment, and I think Oliver might be up there too. Quite a fast driver. But he has... No, it's 10%, and every driver, no. Okay, fair enough. Still objective. Subjective. Here comes Oliver, coming through Sector 3. And Calvin Racing just put himself on pole with a 127.3. Might we able... What? How do you say that? Are we going to be able to see anyone beating that time from Calvin Racing and put himself maybe in a 126, a high 26? It's not going to be Calvin. It's not, it's not going to be Oliver, who has just put himself in a P7. Let's go to the back of the grid. Doran on a fast lap, it seems like. Oh, and he's going to almost park it on the line. I didn't think he saw that coming, as that was the AlphaTauri driver. It might have been... Let me have a quick look. Energy Dan or Mindful Wasp. A surprising qualifying there from Energy Dan, who's put himself in P6. Right in between the Haas drivers. And we've got Doran in P14, the Alpine driver. Not doing a bad job, but his teammate currently in P3, so they need a little bit more qualifying power from Doran. He's currently only in P14. Not bad, not last. like the V car is, but the V car hasn't put a time on the board yet. Cassidy, retired from the session, might have had a qualifying ban. And here comes Doran around the last corner. What will he be doing? And what actually happened to the Mercedes who never qualified? What actually happened to him? Doran improves, but not by too much. A P11 for the Alpine driver. So you might want to go on board with Energy Dan here. Is he on a fast lap? Doesn't look like it. He's going for one right now. Needs to watch out for that Ferrari car right in front of him. And that's the annoying thing here around Saudi Arabia. You've got not much runaway room for the guys to go off track and let the qualifying drivers get past. I got impeded twice yesterday, which is quite frustrating. But I do understand that a lot of drivers don't usually have a lot of room to give room to the other drivers. As you can see, the Ferrari driver could go very wide there, but he decides to not go for it. Energy Dan, who might have a little bit of understeer here due to the dirty air. If he's within 3 seconds of the guy ahead, he is going to have dirty air. And it depends on how much that affects him. Seems like he's definitely improving to the Ferrari car. Coming through sector 2 at the moment. Fast right-hander, fast left-hander, another fast right-hander. Now we've got a very, very, very fast left-hander. He's improving by 2/10 and almost spins, but it was the Wi-Fi that was out of control there. Energy Dan coming around the last corner. Well, first he needs to get past this DRS section, and 1/10 of an improvement will still put him in P6, but will possibly secure that P6, as Oliver would have to improve by 3/10. Here comes Energy Dan coming across the line. A P5 as he improves by quite a bit, 2.7 and puts himself right in front of Mansell, who has not been able to get into the top 5. He still has to come out on track with 3.5 minutes still to go. Energy Dan cuts the track, might not be able to come into the pits again and put on some new tires and come out on track again. I don't think that's going to be a possibility for the AlphaTauri driver, especially when not cutting corners, but I don't think you're allowed to cut the corners, if I'm being honest. Quite some guys out on track at the moment on an outlap, including Kies and Utkarsh. Utkarsh is the most likely one to put himself on pole, as he did the same last week, if I'm not mistaken. Or was that one of the Red Bulls? I think it were both the Red Bulls. I gotta remember what Grand Prix we had last week. Was it Mexico? I don't think it was Mexico. Utkarsh, with his last chance of getting that pole time or possibly improving into the top 3. He's currently in P4. We've got that yellow flag in sector 3. That might have been the Alpine, it was the Alpine. But what Alpine was that going to be? Kieves. Might have been Kieves to let Energy Dan go past. Might have thought that Energy Dan was on a fast lap. Ooh, Utkarsh is not improving. He's going to go for another one after this one. He's not draining any ERS. Might have been warming up his tires one more lap. And Smoke, I know you're listening. Have you found some proof already? If you have, send it to me on Discord. I might be able to... Wait, hold up. I got some messages. Is it from Mr. Smoke? Utkarsh is gonna go for one, but he's gotta wait for one more sector. He definitely cannot go through too fast through these corners, because that would drain his tires too much. I mean, a little bit though. A 127.7 is his time. He needs to improve by half a ton to get into the top 3. And he needs to improve by 3.5 tenths to get into P1 and start from the front of the row during the qualifying. Here he comes down the straight. Energy Dan has retired from the session already. Mansell is also on the fast lap. Utkarsh is most likely the last one to come across the line, although there's still a couple of guys in sector 3 at the moment. It's Vanessa Martin and a Ferrari driver. As I think that is going to be Maggi and Alex Hawk. Here comes Utkarsh through sector 1. It looks so smooth on the throttle. Absolutely beautiful lap here from Utkarsh already. But is he improving coming through sector 1? I'm not 100% sure. He is improving by half a tenth. 300s to be exact. Touches the wall there a little bit down the inside. Might have costed him a couple of tenths. As he's coming through sector 2 at the moment. Here he comes. Doesn't touch the curb too much there. It's a very dangerous corner to, well, a curb to touch. Because if you touch that curb coming through turn, I'll have to think about what turn that is. 15, I think it's possibly 15. Ooh, he's not improving coming through sector 2, and I think that's mainly because he touched that wall through turn 11. That slow left-hander, that long left-hander. He took it a little bit too tight, and it won't be an improvement for Utkarsh. Maybe Keeves is improving. Doesn't look like it, but he definitely can go for another one. Oh, and Mansell comes across the line to put himself on pole. A 127.2. But will that be enough to keep Calvin Racing behind him? Calvin Racing, and he goes into the wall. There goes the Red Bull driver. But he still is going to get a P2, at least if nobody beats his time. Mansell on a provisional pole at the moment. Mindful Wasp in P3. What is the AlphaTauri driver going to do? Seems like he's coming fast through Sector 1. Is he improving coming into Sector 2? It is not looking like it. 1.2 tenths down on his time. But maybe he can find some time through Sector 2 and Sector 3. Keeves on a fast lap 2. He's got a little bit of traffic right in front of him. That is going to be a Williams driver and an Aston Martin driver. And it's not looking great if that's Mark Werty, because he's usually a little bit slower. He is improving by 1.5 tenths. Here comes the Alpine driver. He will be able to get a little bit of tow. Will the guys in front of him give him some space? Doesn't look like it. DRS wide open. What will the Aston Martin be doing? They're going side by side coming through the last corner. He will get a little bit of tow from those guys, and that will give him about a tenth or two. Here he comes, Keeves down the straight. They're both coming into the pits and they're going to crash. What were they doing? It's qualifying. And Keeves puts himself on pole. Improves by quite a bit of time. Mark Werty gets a 5-second time penalty. No, 5-place grid penalty for illegal blocking. And I'm not going to argue with you whether that is deserved or not. Prep is going to come into the pits now. He's just going to come across the line. And Keeves on pole for tonight, a 127.2. We didn't get into the 126, but a 127.2 exceeds my expectations. Mansell, who thought he was going to be starting on pole, will be starting in P2, and unfortunately, it will be behind Keeves. I'm just going to close the door of my room. I will be right back with you guys. Here we've got the standings of the qualifying. Well, the standings, it's not really the standings. The results of the qualifying. Keeves puts himself on pole. I'm not able to hear anything. You guys are still able to hear me, don't you? Why is this not working? So Keeves on pole, 127.2. Now we've got Mansell. Let's go all the way to the bottom. Why am I not hearing anything? This is weird. 1 second, guys. I'm just gonna unplug my headset real quick. There we go. So we're currently waiting in the pit lane for the guys to put themselves on track. Go on, Doran, you can do it. And he says in the chat. So Doran, you heard it. If you're watching, your friend or your buddy or whatever, your boyfriend, I don't know. Andy in the chat says, go on, Doran, you can do it, mate. And I believe so too. Doran, who possibly is the second driver of Alpine. I usually don't want to name anyone first and second driver, but he has been a little bit underperforming compared to his teammate, but I definitely think he will be able to get into the top 10 today. if he has the pace and the consistency, because we are with a bunch of consistent guys racing tonight. We've got Mansell, we've got Calvin Racing, Cassidy, Utkarsh, Tashkern, who are some other guys? Energy Dan, Keefs, all those guys are definitely up there, and it's gonna be such a hard grid to get into the top 10 with, but it might be there. It might be right around the corner for Doran. So I'm definitely interested about what strategies these guys will be going for, because yesterday I was racing around Saudi Arabia too, and they suggested to go for a soft medium strategy, although I'm not sure whether I definitely like that strategy. I went for a medium soft strategy. Well, I first went for a medium hard strategy, but then I thought, you know, let's start on the mediums and see how long you can take those mediums with you, and then possibly go into the softs at the end of the race. But well, that worked. I didn't go for the medium hard strategy. I went for the medium soft strategy, and it worked out quite well. I went from P9 to P6 if I'm not mistaken. So good strategy. I would definitely suggest it for you guys to use it. But if you're rather starting on the softs, start on the softs so you can come into the pits early when there is an early safety car, and to go onto the hard tires to finish off this race. But that's also possible with the medium tires. So you would be able to go onto the mediums and then onto the hards at the end of the race. It's how you prefer it. We're currently waiting in the pit lane. I'm just waiting for Smoke to send me some information about what he's saying. I don't think he found any. Oh, my camera is not there yet. Why is it not there? Ah, my mouse is not working. That is the reason why. Let me have a quick look. Let's go from everyone. I'm just reading the chat here real quick. Yep. Oh, good. We're ready to go. Well, we're still waiting, but they told us to ready up, and now we're waiting in the lobby. So I hope I'm not gonna get glitched out of the lobby, because that has happened before. I'm chill, mate. I'm as chill as what is very chill usually these days. Nothing. I'm as chill as a bee. Is a bee chill? I'm the wasp killer because we've got a wasp in our, you know. Yeah, never mind. What food are you getting, Smoke? Let's have a quick look with the tires here. A lot of guys starting on the hards, a lot of guys starting on the softs. So we've got a very interesting strategy going on here. Mindful was the only guy in the top 5 to start on the soft. And Utkarsh is the only one from the whole grid starting on the mediums. And in my opinion, he is going to win this race. Starting on the mediums is definitely the way to go. Although he's got a lot of different contestants in front of him. Mindful Wasp on the softs is definitely going to be faster during the beginning of the race, but at the end of the race, he's going to struggle. Keeves and Mansell, Calvin Racing are going to be slower at the beginning of the race, but faster at the end of their, stint. And we've got Oliver on the hards. He managed to get into P6. Not bad at all. Energy Dan dropped down to P7, starting on the softs. Shaggy, Tashkern, both the Mercedes driver with a consistent top 10 in the qualifying, starting on the hards. Both of them. And we've got soft tires for Doran, Alex Hawk, Yes, and Mark Werty, and then the rest of the grid is on the hard tires. So we're just chilling. We're just waiting for the guys to put themselves on the grid again, and then we're going to go racing. So let's go to the position changes, as I'm just going to listen to the live stream and see if the quality is still alright with that little audio problem we had a couple of minutes ago. Let me have a quick listen. Yeah, quality seems to be all good, guys. We're waiting, we're chilling for the formation lap. And it is going to be green flags, no yellow flags to be awarded during a formation lap session. And hopefully not too many people are going to get disqualified from the qualifying and putting themselves on the starting grid, because that has been a returning issue here in Speed Force Racing, where guys are just not putting themselves on the starting grid correctly, which ends them up in getting a disqualification. Yo, Martin, how are you doing, buddy? How are you doing? Good evening to you. We've got that AlphaTauri. That is Energy Dan. I knew it was Energy Dan. I think he's been struggling with Wi-Fi lately, and this shows it right here. He's been glitching all over the place. But I hope it's not going to give any issues during the actual race, you know. Shaggy disqualified from the session. Also, Alex Hogg is disqualified from the session. Should be all good. Here we go. Energy Dan starting in P1. Guys, welcome to the Grand Prix of Saudi Arabia here in Speed Force Racing. Season 15, round 10. It's 5 red lights. And away we go. Skeev starting from P1. Is he going to maintain that position? I'm not sure. Energy Dan making up a position. Here comes Calvin Racing around the outside of Mansell. Has the inside right. And we've got a crash between Mansell and the Williams driver. There goes my guess of Utgars winning this race. And we've got a yellow flag already. I don't think it was a very severe crash. Shaggy making the overtake on his teammate right on the tail of Oliver at the moment. There's only 2 drivers who have lost positions, Mansell and Utgars, so that means we've got a very clean turn 1, which is not that common in Saudi Arabia. Alex Hawk on the tail of the Mercedes driver. Here he comes around the outside. ERS wide open for Alex Hawk as he makes that overtake on the Mercedes driver. Also, Doran tries to go down the inside of Prep. And it seems like he's able to take that position. Here he comes down the inside, around the outside right now, but he decides to back off on those soft tires. And we should definitely take those tires with us. Mindful Wasp on the tail of Calvin Racing. He's already making up positions. And also his teammate right behind him, which I didn't think was going to happen that soon. But we had that crash between Utgars and Mr. Mansell, who dropped from the top 5 to all the way at the bottom of the grid. We've got Mindful Wasp on the tail of that Red Bull driver. It might be a 2-on-1 overtake, as it's got a lot of straight line speed. Look at that. Chooses to go down the inside and a 2-way overtake from the AlphaTauri driver into the last corner of the track. What a move from Mindful Wasp. Takes 1 position from that, maybe with a little bit of VRS and some straight line speed. He might be able to get that overtake on the Alpine driver done. Doesn't look like it. Calvin Racing tries to go down the inside. 3 wide, no, 2 wide. Mindful Wasp goes around the outside. Has the inside line coming through turn 2. Doesn't touch the Williams driver. It's an Alpine driver. Never mind. Mindful Wasp takes P1, takes the lead of the race on those soft tires. Calvin Racing now making the overtake on the Alpine driver around the outside. Having the inside line at the moment. The Alpine driver is not giving up. Here he comes down the inside. Very difficult corner to make the overtake on. And he takes that overtake. Calvin Racing in P2. My lungs are gone. Mindful Wasp has a 1.3 second gap of a lead. And it looks quite nice. Mad GMP 11 right behind Prep. And we've got a little bit of a DRS train. If we're coming into sector 3, into lap 3, I should say. The guys are going to have the DRS. Doran on the tail of Shaggy. Here he comes on the tail of that Mercedes driver. Doesn't touch the wall on the exit, although it looked quite sketchy. Here he comes. Not the DRS wide open, but they usually would have DRS. Here he comes down the inside, backs out of it, because he didn't want to make a move coming through that part of the track. Goes off track a little bit. Oh, he brakes quite nice there. Leaves enough room for Shaggy to get past, but he's getting attacked from behind by Tashkern. And Doran should be a little bit faster on those soft tires, but it seems like he's stuck behind that first Mercedes driver. Here he comes, tries to go down the inside and spins into the wall. There goes Doran. Goodbye and good night to the Alpine driver, although he's still on track, so not good night yet, but goodbye to the rest of the grid. We've got a little bit of chaos going on here. Not sure what's happening. 3 wide, 4 wide coming through the fast straight, the start-finish straight, I should say. And AKG makes that overtake on the Alpine driver, Mansell. Ooh, Mr. Wiggles, I think he had a crash. Indeed, yes. Drops back to P16. As we might want to go back to the front of the grid. Keeves on the tail of the Red Bull driver. And Keeves has been very strong lately, qualifying in P1 today. He's dropped 2 positions though, but I can't blame him. Mindful Wasp being on those soft tires definitely is a little bit faster than Keeves and Calvin Racing. A yellow flag in Sector 2. Who's that going to be? It is going to be a Prep. The McLaren driver was looking at a consistent P10, if I'm being honest, but he dropped back to P18, possibly had a collision with someone. Utgars, who already came into the pits, went onto the medium tires, and he's going to be all the way in P19. Keeves still on the tail of the Calvin Racing. And now he will have DRS coming through this part of the track, so that is looking absolutely amazing for the Alpine driver. Here he comes on the tail of the Red Bull driver. DRS wide open. Is he going to go for it? Chooses to go down the inside. Calvin Racing leaves enough room. And Keeves takes that position, but Calvin Racing will not have another DRS opportunity. They're getting back to Mindful Wasp. Energy Dan sticking to the tail of these guys. And will he be able to get another P3 or a P2 or a P1, at least a podium finish like he did in Baku? And it seems like he's trying to go around the outside. I would patiently wait if I were you, Dan. I know you're listening, or listening later, but then, I mean, my advice is not going to give you any guidance through this race. They're definitely catching up a little bit, kind of losing some time coming through Sector 1 at the moment, battling with each other, 2 seconds behind Mindful Wasp. We've got a 3-way battle for the top 2. Mindful Wasp, who's obviously on a different strategy than all of these guys. Will he be going on to the mediums later? I would say so. The soft mediums is definitely doable here around Saudi Arabia. It's not a very tire consumable track, but tire overheating is another story. Mark Werty crashed out. Gas making the overtake. As we might want to go back to AKJ, GJ, however you want to say it. He was right on the tail of that Ferrari driver. I think Gas made that overtake on the Williams driver because he's on the soft tires. A little bit of an awkward line there from the Williams driver as he's got the V-car right on his tail. Here comes the Alfa Romeo driver. DRS wide open for the V-car. Will he be able to benefit from that? It is not looking like it. AKJ will be right in front of him. And another touchy wally there for AKJ. I have no idea. AKG. V-car will have another DRS opportunity, and AKJ lost some time to Gas, so he will not have the DRS down the start-finish straight. What will the V-car be doing? A little bit of an awkward line there from MCFC. And Energy Dance seems to be attacked from behind. Here comes the V-car as AKG comes into the pits. Both the Alfa Romeo drivers will gain a position. And Alex Hawk has caught up. Down the inside he goes into turn 4. Almost crashes out then there. Very dangerous move from the Norwegian driver as he now gets overtaken by Oliver. It seems like Energy Dan had some kind of incident with either Calvin Racing or Keeves. And is Alex Hawk just cutting the corners there? I do think so. He doesn't want to go through that part of the track with overheated tires, and I wouldn't blame him. But why has Energy Dan lost so many time to Calvin Racing and Keeves? I kind of missed that. There is some... Ooh, Cassidy only with a P8. I think he didn't have a qualifying. Having a heated battle with the Mercedes driver at the moment. Are they going to have the DRS already? It's not looking like it. Cassidy... Cutting the corner there a little bit might have been a penalty. He did gain a position off that. He's getting chased from behind. Here comes Shaggy. Around the outside he goes. Cassidy gets overtaken. Beautiful overtake there from Shaggy. It's a little bit shady, but Shaggy doesn't care about the shady. Here comes Mad G on the tail of Cassidy. A 3-way move. I wouldn't say so. Here he comes, kind of backside of it. DRS wide open, makes the overtake on Shaggy. And also Cassidy takes up a position. Shaggy also getting overtaken by the Oz driver, Mansell. Made up quite a few good positions already. Oliver making the overtake on Energy Den, and also Calvin Racing down the straight making the overtake on Keeves. DRS wide open as it seems like Mad G is trying to make the overtake on Cassidy. And it's looking like that has worked out. Shaggy down the inside with a heated battle with Mansell. Mansell is not giving up, getting that position right back at it. As Mansell obviously needs to gain some positions after that incident with Utkarsh, which he had earlier. And he's on the tail of Cassidy at the moment. Cassidy, who's not been very strong during the qualifying. I don't think he qualified at all. Let me have a quick look. Cassidy gained 9 positions, starting in P18. Doesn't look like he qualified at all. Might have been a retirement from the qualifying session. And if I could remember well, he did retire from the qualifying session. Let's go to P3. Keeves on the tail of Calvin Racing. Once again, a yellow flag in Sector 2. That is going to be MCFC, who DNF'd from the session. I think that was on track, but I could be wrong. Let's go back to P9, as Cassidy definitely needs some points for the Drivers' Championship. So I'm just going to take that with me. It would definitely be handy to have some kind of charts. Cassidy getting overtaken. Doesn't look like it. Mansell is just gonna wait for the DRS down the straight. Where are the standings? I was opening up the wrong thing. Here comes Cassidy down the inside of Matt G. Nothing Matt G can do. And it's going to be a three-way battle. Here comes Matt G. No, it's Mansell. He goes down the inside of Matt G, but he decides not to go for the move on Cassidy. Let me have a quick look with SFR and then the standings, of course. Classified standings. It's an Excel list, not an Excel list, a document. And Mansell still on the tail of Cassidy. Look how close they're going. They're coming through sector 1. And it's not usually very common to go that close to each other coming through sector 1. And it seems like Alex Hawk has been overtaken by Tashkern. A very consistent Tashkern already. Oh, and the Red Bull almost loses his car. Makes up for it though, still in P8. But these are two good were two good contestants for P1 here today, as I'm just gonna take the Drivers' Championship with me. Mansell is currently leading that Drivers' Championship as he makes that overtake on the Red Bull driver, having the inside line, going through a very hard track, a very difficult part of the track. And it was definitely very risky from Mansell, had to risk everything to get past the Red Bull driver. Might want to go on board with the tires again. All these guys using the same strategy. Here comes Matt G. Backing out of it. Wants to have that DRS down the straight. Has a good line coming through that last part of the track. Seems like Oliver makes that overtake on Energy Dan again. So as I said, Mansell currently in P1 has about 21 points in front of Keeves. Keeves, who is in P2, is doing a great job, if I'm being honest, and Cassidy with a surprising P3, despite being in P9 at the moment in the race. Energy Dan still on the tail of Oliver, as it seems like Mark Gritty is making the overtake because Shaggy is coming into the pit. 7 lap old Hearts. I'm pretty sure he's not coming into the pits to change tires, but to change his front wing. Cassidy is going to have the DRS later, so it might be an opportunity for him to get past Keeves. Keeves, who has been struggling, not touching the wall here lately. We saw him touch the wall earlier, a couple of laps ago, a couple of corners ago too. And here comes Calvin Racing around sector 2. And further down the Drivers' Championship, we've got Calvin Racing in P4, Mindful Wasp in P5, and Utkarsh in P6. So definitely not a bad standings there. And as you can see, a lot of those guys are currently in the top 10. We've got Cassidy, we've got Mansell, we've got Oliver. Oliver not in the top 10, not in the top 5 in the Drivers' Championship, but he is still up there in the top 5 in this race at the moment. Keeves, Mindful Wasp, Calvin Racing, Utkarsh, so unfortunately is a P15 at the moment. But here we go, Calvin Racing making the overtake with the DRS down the straight. And it seems like Keeves has not given up though, but Calvin Racing goes back onto the racing line, makes that overtake work on the Alpine driver. And usually here around Saudi Arabia, it's just moves with the use of DRS. You've got Sector 2, a lot of overtakes are being made due to the DRS. Sector 3, Sector 1, all because of the DRS, and it's the only track with, I think, 4 DRS opportunities. If I'm not mistaken, you've got a DRS opportunity coming out of turn 15. You've got DRS opportunity coming out of turn... Wait, I have to count that actually. Is it 4 or is it 3? I think it's 4, isn't it? So let me have a quick look. Keeves has the DRS here. So that is DRS opportunity 1, if I'm not mistaken. Coming through this part of the track. Oh no, it's 3. Is it 3 though? I don't think it's 3. Is it 3? Ah, I could be wrong. I need to... Oh wait, I can see. 1, 2... Oh no, it's 3. Oh, that's disappointing. I thought it was 4. Alex Hawk, who's done a great job on those soft tires, but the time has come to come to the pits. The drivers will come into the pits around lap 10, 11, something like that, because those softs will be done. They won't be able to do any more laps on those softs unless they lose a lot of time. DRS wide open at the moment for the Aston Martin driver, right behind Mansell, and he might be able to make a two-way overtake on both the Haas and the Mercedes. Sorry guys. Ah, shit. I was muting my microphone. Apologies, guys. if anyone spun into the wall because of that, my sincere apologies. My mouse is a little bit broken, so whenever I press the left button, it just doesn't work anymore. I don't know. Dashkern on the tail of Mansell. 7/10s behind the Haas driver, and these two have been running those old hard tires, but they can still run those hard tires for about 4 or 5 laps. I think the medium tires will run about 15 laps, and then they're around 60% of their life, which is obviously not great. 60%, you're slowing down by quite a bit because you're running on those old tires. And especially the medium tires. With the hard tires, it's not that bad, but the medium tires are bad, and even the softs are worse. So, yeah, it's all very, very difficult to have different strategies on track. You know, you've got a lot of guys on the softs. For example, Mr. Mindful Wasp, who's having a 2.8 second lead over Calvin Racing at the moment. He's on the softs. He will be possibly going onto the medium tires. He will possibly come into the pits next lap, because otherwise he's just losing too much time to Calvin Racing. 2.8 seconds still, so it doesn't mean that he's losing a lot of time. He's even catching time, well, gaining time, making up a gap to Calvin Racing coming through Sector 1, as it seems like he's losing that time again coming through that fast part of the track. He was gaining time through turn 1 and 2, but he gained that time. He lost that time again coming through turn 6, 7, 8, 9, that corner section, as Calvin Racing is gaining on Mindful Wasp, but also Tashkaren is losing some time to Mansell. Mansell is definitely pushing Energy Dan, not really losing too much time to Oliver at the moment, but he has to come to the pits pretty soon. Mr. Wiggles on the tail of his teammate, and we've seen that very often already from the Alfa Romeo team, where they are right behind each other, and I think these two are very similar paced drivers. Mr. Wiggles, who was up there last season but is not there up there anymore. He's around the V-Car space. The V-Car, who is in the top 10 in the Drivers' Championship, which quite surprises me. He gets those consistent positions. He gets those consistent points, and that is the most interesting thing about the V-Car. He doesn't have a lot of pace, like not compared to Mindful Wasp or Cavalry Racing. He just has enough pace, but some beautiful consistency alongside it, and that is what's given him a lot of points during the race. Mindful Wasp just came across into the pits, and where will he end up in? Will it be behind the Ferrari driver? I would say so. Oh, he still has to come into the pits. Yeah, it will be behind the Ferrari car. It even will be behind the second Ferrari car, won't it? Nah, it won't be. So it's good that he finds himself in no man's land at the moment, although he needs to be in front of the Alfa Romeo though. It shouldn't be a problem. So it's good that he's in no man's land at the moment, because that means he has free air, he has clean air, he has no one to disturb him during his outlap and all that kind of stuff. So he will have a little bit of an undercut, which will gain him time. He will be on a fast lap at the moment. Proof is sent on Discord. Thank you very much, Smoke. I will look at it right after the race. I will still be able to tell you what I think of the proof at the end of this race. I already want to take a look though. Let me have a quick look. A small look. Oh, we've got 4. Okay, so apparently it is 10%. That is crazy. I didn't know that actually. I thought it was 20%. 10%. I've always been racing with the thought that it was below 20%. Isn't it below 20%? Wait, I'm actually gonna look at that. I always thought it was. Let me have a quick look. Who has less than 20%? Nobody has less than 20%. How does that make sense? Here. Maybe Doran. Here we go. Oh, come on, man. It is 10%. Crazy. Thank you for letting me know, Smoke. I didn't know that. I absolutely didn't know that. Thank you very much. Where will Energy Dan end up in? He's coming into the pits, going onto the medium tires, possibly. And it will be behind Mindful Wasp. It'll also be behind the Alfa Romeos, but he will still find himself in clean air, which is obviously great. Mr. Wiggles still on the tail. Mindful Wasp has caught up to Mad G quite rapidly, if I'm being honest. By the way, Smoke, do you have proof on that thing that other thing we had an argument about? I don't know what it was. What was it again? Oh, here comes Mindful Wasp down the straight. No ERS has been enabled. There used to be an ERS detection point there. I'm pretty sure. What was the other thing we were having an argument about? It was about... Oh man, I totally forgot about that. What other thing did we have an argument about? It was not the 10%. Well, it was also the 10%, but also something else, which was bigger if I'm being honest. It was something subjective. This is not subjective, if I'm being honest. It was oh yeah, when the lights are blinking from the qualifying. When the lights are blinking from the qualifying. Why are the lights blinking in an outlap? Is it just because they're in an outlap, or... Because it doesn't have anything to do with the ERS, I think. I need to blow my nose. Hold up, guys. I'll be right back. Oh, wait. We'll just have a look at this. Oh, and Cassidy comes into the pits already. So is Oliver. Will they be going on to the mediums? I would say so. So the guys on the softs have actually gained time. Here comes Mindful Wasp making the overtake on Oliver. Is on the tail of Tashkern. Will Tashkern make it difficult for Mindful Wasp? It is looking like it. Down the straight they go into turn 4. And it is Mindful Wasp making the overtake up into P4. Look at that. The V-car just came out on track. He's gonna be behind every driver that has passed him. Gas, Doran, Shaggy, Magi, Cassidy, Alex Hawk, and Mr. Wiggles all the way finds himself in P6. Not a bad result, but all the guys behind him have already come into the pits. So, should you be happy about it? I'm not sure. Doran on the tail of Shaggy. No, but it doesn't mean that when it's not being deployed that... I don't get it. The ERS doesn't have anything to do with the lights blinking during the qualifying. It just has... I don't know. How is that a fact? Can you let me know where is that fact stated? I would like to see that too. If that's possible. Mindful Wasp making the overtake. Oh, and Mansell, what is he doing? What is Mansell doing? Came into the pits, and I think he went too fast onto the throttle, just spun, was horizontally with the track. And did he lose a front wing there? I'm not sure. It doesn't look like it. Oh, look at that. The Haas team has Paul Majels on the back of their head. That's quite cool. I didn't know that. Oliver on the tail of Energy Dan. Both the drivers on the medium tires. Energy Dan on 1 lap older mediums. Yeah, sure, Smoke. I don't mind being proven wrong. If it's true, it's true, you know. And being proven wrong is nothing bad, you know. You can be wrong about something. The ERS is still harvesting when doing the outlap, which means it blinks. I would highly doubt that, because that means that during a race it would blink too, wouldn't it? It's not like the cars are different during a qualifying than during a race. Here comes Oliver around the outside, has the inside line right now. I wouldn't go here for a move, and he backs out of it. Very smart from the Haas driver. But he did lose a little bit of time to Energy Dan. Keeves coming into the pits on 15-lap-old hards. He will possibly be going on to the softs to finish off this race. Oliver with the DRS and the ERS. Oh, and a yellow flag. It will only be a virtual safety car, but I think Keeves has had a little bit of a... I think he had a little bit of a lucky moment there with the safety car. Well, the virtual safety car coming out. He's right behind Calvin Racing. Like, Smoke, why are you being toxic about it? I'm just questioning stuff. Like, you don't need to be like that. No point. No, in the race, the car is constantly using ERS. Can you not switch that off? Is that an option? I don't know. That would make sense why during a during a rainy race, it always has to blink. Virtual safety car still going on. As we've got Mansell on the tail of Cassidy. Mansell actually doing a great job. Good comeback race. He is caught up to the Red Bull and the Aston Martin. And where's Utkarsh all the way in P13? I think he's been a little bit unlucky with his strategy. You can't switch it off? Fair enough. Oh, and a drive-through penalty for Utkarsh. Speeding in... Well, speeding under safety car. I was going to say speeding in the pit lane, but that gives you a 5-second time penalty. Here comes Mansell on the tail of the Red Bull. Fair enough. MDJ, thank you for telling me in a respectful manner. I appreciate that. Cassidy on the tail of Alex. Here comes Mansell around the outside. DRS wide open. Is he going to make a two-way move? It does look like it. Mansell up into P6 as he makes that overtake on both the Aston and the Red Bull. But now Cassidy and Alex Hawk will have another opportunity making the overtake. Here he comes down the straight. DRS wide open. It seems like Mansell has a lot of straight line speed. Look at that. He's not going to lose a position. Cassidy, not enough straight line speed. Alex Hawk might be up for it. He's not going to go for it. And Maggi making the overtake on Dashkar in there with the use of DRS. So you might want to go with the front of at the front of the grid. Energy Dan on the tail of Oliver. And I mean, on the tail, not really. He's just out of the DRS second. 1.1, 1.2 seconds. And Energy Dan, I've been quite surprised with him. Utkarsh coming into the pits, a DNF. And I don't think that was needed because everyone who finishes the race scores points. And he's not within the last 3 laps of the race, so he's not going to score any points. Cassidy, here he comes. DRS wide open. Does he have the DRS already? I don't think he has the DRS already. No, he doesn't. Into turn 15 they go. And a little bit of a walk is there from Mansell coming through turn 15. And now Cassidy will have the DRS. Does he have the DRS though? It doesn't look like it. Pushes the curb quite nice there, but I don't think he will be able to catch up with Mansell. Mansell just has so much space coming through Sector 2 and Sector 1. And Cassidy, it doesn't look like he has enough straight line speed to get past the Haas driver. Although he's coming through that last part of the track quite nicely. DRS wide open for Cassidy in a couple of seconds. Keeps with the fastest lap on the soft tires. Is he going to be able to catch up with Calvin Racing and Mindful Wasp? I'm not 100% sure, but here comes Cassidy. And look at that straight line speed from Mansell. It's just unbelievable. No DRS enabled by the Haas driver. And Cassidy with DRS and ERS is not able to catch up. Although he's using a little bit of ERS right now, he's got a lot of ERS saved. How much does Mansell have? Still 50%. So these guys are definitely working around their ERS and trying to save as much as they can to have a possible P6 battle at the end of the race. Still 7 more laps to go after this one. And it seems like Energy Dan is not able to keep the toe of Oliver. So as things are looking like right now, there's quite a few good big gaps between the drivers. Mindful Wasp will be running away with that P1. But here's the thing. He is on older mediums. He will drop off rapidly at the end of the race. 6-lap-old mediums. He will struggle around lap 23, lap 24. And that's where Calvin Racing can take his chance to make that overtake on Mindful Wasp if he saves some ERS. But he might, you know, there's 2 options for the Red Bull driver at the moment. He might want to use a lot of ERS to get within that toe of Mindful Wasp. So he can use the DRS down the last straight. You will be able to make that overtake. But you also can save some ERS if you think you're already going to catch up. Keeps with another fastest lap, and I think he is up for a challenge. He wants to get that race win. He started in P1. Well, this race, he started in P1 because he qualified in P1, which is quite obvious. Cassidy with another opportunity. Here he comes. MDJ highly doubts that Keeps is going to make it on those soft. The soft tires run for about 10 to 11 laps. I've done it yesterday and it worked out perfectly. I did the same strategy, the exact same strategy as Keeves did. And Keeves even came later into the pits than I did. I came into the pits around lap 14 or 15. I think it was 15. Lap 15 I came into the pits and I did 10 laps on those soft tires, and I actually went from P9 to P6. So it's doable on those softs though. All the other guys on the mediums, and a lot of guys have gone from hards to mediums, which is, I would say the hards to the softs are a better option. A lot of guys have also gone from softs to mediums, but I think medium soft was the best option. Keeps went from hards to softs. And your car is lighter than at the beginning of the race, so you shouldn't be worrying too much about the weight of your car. Because when it's heavier, your car is going to have more friction on the tires and more weight on the tires, and that's going to cause your tires to, well, be worse at the end of their stint, if that makes sense. But since the guys are already at the end of the race, 5 more laps to go, the softs should do it. The softs should do it. Here comes Energy Dan, and he's caught up to Oliver. Quite of a surprising catch-up from the AlphaTauri driver. No worries, MDJ. Everyone can be wrong. Like I was earlier, twice. It's nothing to be ashamed of. Everyone can be wrong. It's not like Smoke is right every time, is he? Energy Dan keeping Oliver behind him, and he's actually doing a great job. I think Oliver has some front wing damage, because otherwise he wouldn't lose that much time to the AlphaTauri driver. Utkarsh, I'm so sad to see you DNF in the race, buddy. Ooh, Tashkaren making the overtake. What happened to Alex Haw? Cutting that corner again. He did it earlier too. I don't think that's a lie though. Cassidy still on the tail of Mansell, but he can't get past the Oz driver. I think he's just catching that toe and trying to save some ERS to attack during the last lap. I think that's quite of a good strategy, but he's dropping out of the DRS, possibly 1 second. He just got within 1 second. Energy Dan having another battle with Oliver. Oliver with the DRS. And here he comes, making the overtake down the inside. But is he going to brake earlier? It does look like it. They're going side by side. DRS wide open for Oliver, as he wants to get that DRS, and I don't think he'll get it. He won't be getting it. Energy Dan will have the DRS down to start, finish straight. DRS wide open for the AlphaTauri, and he will make that overtake around the outside. He decides to go around the outside. Usually you want to be down the inside there. Like Oliver, he's going to brake a little bit later. Ooh, no contact between the both of them. Oliver, I think he broke a little bit too late. Still has a good exit coming through turn 2, but he has to sort himself back behind the AlphaTauri driver. And Keeves is not really catching up anymore. I don't think he will be able to get back into the top 2. Galvin Racing, on the other hand, is catching up to Mindful Wasp. He was about 4 to 5 seconds behind the AlphaTauri, and all of a sudden he's only 3 seconds behind Mindful Wasp. So the Wasp really needs to watch out for the Wasp Hunter, who is Calvin Racing, of course. 2.8 seconds for the Red Bull driver, and here comes Oliver on the tail of Energy Dan. It won't be an opportunity for the Haas driver, but both the Haas drivers have done a great job getting back within that top 6. Because Mansell, he dropped back to the back of the race, to the back of the grid at the beginning of the race, and Oliver is gonna back out of it. It wasn't the smartest idea to go for a move there. Energy Dan possibly getting a top 4, a top 5 position. But Mansell is catching up. The battling between these two is definitely not for a great cause, because we've got Oliver's teammate trying to make the overtake. Energy Dan down the inside. It seems like... oh, Oliver touches the wall, possibly has a broken front wing, and now it's the time for Energy Dan to run away. Run away, Dan, if you can. ERS wide open. He decides to go down the inside. Oliver still goes down the inside and makes the overtake into turn 1 with the use of DRS, but that doesn't matter too much. Mansell is caught up within that DRS 1 second, and there's only 3 more laps to go. Utkarsh, not sure what happened at turn 1, broke my front wing, and that was game over. Very unfortunate incident. I saw it happen. I'm not 100% sure what happened, but I did see it happen. It is what it is. It is what it is. It's one of those nights. It's one of those tracks where usually those kind of things happen. And here comes Mansell. Yes, I think that was a little bit of a mistake from Energy Dan, and he finds himself in one of the most difficult positions here. He is surrounded by 2 drivers of one of the best teams in Speed Force Racing. And it's definitely a hard challenge trying to make that overtake on Oliver, but it's also a hard challenge keeping Mansell behind him. So it's just, better luck next time, Energy Dan. You know, if he's able to get in front of both those Haas drivers, he earns my respect. Like, sincerely. Here comes Energy Dan. They've just entered lap 23 out of the 25. Around the outside he goes. No damage done. Almost touches the wall there with one of the Haas drivers. And he will be able to make that overtake now. Here comes Mansell. Has a lot of straight line speed. Also Energy Dan. His lights are blinking. And both the Haas drivers still have a little bit of ERS saved. Energy Dan down the inside. Here comes Mansell making the overtake on his teammate. Doesn't look like it. A good exit from Oliver. Both the Haas drivers are now looking at that AlphaTauri tail. Look at Calvin Racing too. He's within 2 seconds of Mindful Wasp. Still 3 more laps to go. And he might be able to crown himself the Saudi Arabia race winner. The Grand Prix winner here in Saudi Arabia, Jeddah. But for now, he still needs to gain about 2 seconds on Mindful Wasp. And that will be a very hard challenge. Seems like Oliver is leaving some space for his teammate Mansell, who's got the fresher tire, who's a little bit faster than Oliver. I would argue with that. I mean, that's my argument, whatever you want to call it. And these three are the only 3 drivers to be within 1 second of each other. The V-Car is right behind his teammate though, but that is not close enough. Mansell trying to make that overtake on Energy Dan coming into turn 18. Is that turn 18? I think there's way more turns here around this track. I have no idea. Mansell making the overtake with the use of DRS. And also Oliver. He's used all of his ERS, so he won't be having any more to battle with Energy Dan. I think Energy Dan will have the opportunity to use the DRS again, but we've seen Mansell save some ERS. We've seen Mansell be very strong down the straight. Is Energy Dan got what it's needed? It doesn't look like it. ERS was used by Mansell, and he doesn't have any ERS left anymore, as we saw that those lights blinking. Energy Dan on 11 lap old medium, so that is also going to play a part in this battle. Because Mansell is on 2 lap old fresher tires, and you can see him run away in the distance in sector 1. And that is not great for Energy Dan. He's possibly going to drop out of the 1 second. He's struggling on those mediums. Oh, it's going to be tight. It's going to be tight. Using a little bit of ERS down the straight, coming through turn 11. It will just not be enough coming through turn 12, 13. And then we've got 14 and 15. I don't think it will be enough for Energy Dan. Just got within that 1 second. He will have the DRS down the straight. Here comes Energy Dan. DRS wide open. He will gain a little bit of time to Mansell, but it won't be enough. Into the last lap they go, possibly, as Mindful Wasp. It won't be enough for Calvin Racing. 1.3 seconds. We might need to keep our eyes closed on that one. Well, open on that one. And Energy Dan just got within that 1 second. DRS wide open for Energy Dan. It will be right enough, but he won't be able to catch up to Mansell, I'm afraid. Into the last lap they go. Calvin Racing seems to have lost some time coming through that straight. 1.7 seconds. And Energy Dan caught up to Mansell. Here he comes. Here he comes. The hungry AlphaTauri. The hungry Energy Dan. And it's not going to be enough. Oliver is losing a lot of time. Despite being on fresher tires than Energy Dan. Energy Dan just has found pace in Saudi Arabia. He's battling for a P4, and I think he wants it. I think he's hungry. And we've seen him being hungry in Baku, and this gives me the same vibes as Baku, Azerbaijan, where he got a P3 after a battle with Ellie, and I think it was Mansell, if I'm not mistaken. Mansell, once again, in a good position. He dropped back all the way to the back of the race, but is currently in a very heated battle with Energy Dan. Here they come, coming through Sector 2. DRS will be wide open for Energy Dan. He doesn't have too much ERS saved. How much does Mansell still have saved? Let's have a quick look. Still has about 20%. Energy Dan has about 15, I think. That's my guess. DRS wide open for Energy Dan. Within 1 second of the Haas driver. And will it be enough? Has an awkward line coming through that part of his track. Lost a bit of time. DRS wide open. Coming around the last corner. Is Energy Dan and Mansell. Your race winner is going to be Mindful Wasp with Calvin Racing right on the tail. Here comes Energy Dan. He needs a good line coming through that part of the track, through that last corner of the track. He has a beautiful line. It will be DRS and DRS wide open for Energy Dan, but it won't be enough to get into that P4. Beautiful racing between these two. We might need to get along on board with... Ooh, Wiggles! Right the outside. Will we be able to get P10? Alex Hawk is not giving in. DRS wide open for Mr. Wiggles, and it will be an overtaking opportunity. Mr. Wiggles runs away with a P10 and no penalties from any of the guys. Oh, guys, that was so close. 10 thousandths. Oh, 100s. Between Alex Hawk and Mr. Wiggles. What a race night. And this was one of the most exciting races I've ever witnessed in Speed Force Racing. Mark Werty still is the only one together with Shaggy to come across the line. Prep, MCFC and Utgars did not make it across the line, as both Williams drivers are not going to be scoring any points for the team. Let me have another look. Well, I'm not going to read that message. Mark Werty coming across the line, and your race winner is going to be a Mindful Wasp. Absolutely beautiful race. He's done the right strategy, going from the softs onto the mediums. I don't think we've seen anyone trying out the medium soft strategy except for Utgars, but he crashed in the pit lane. Driver of the day is Cassidy. I couldn't agree even more, because Cassidy obviously went from last to top 5, if I'm not mistaken. Let me have a quick look with the results of the race. Camera has to be deleted, because otherwise the guys cannot read what is on the screen, of course. Utgars has left the session already. And when is the results coming? Not soon. Not later. It should be now. Mindful Wasp in P1, Calvin Racing in P2, and Keefs in P3. Further, we've got Mansell, Energy Dan, Oliver, Cassidy, Tushkern, Magi, and Mr. Wiggles. And then we've got Alex Hogg, the V-Car, Dorn, yes, Shaggy, and Mark Werty. And then we've got our DNS, of course, Utgars, Prep, and MCFC, who have not made it across the line. Fastest lap goes to Keefs, who was on those soft tires at the end of the race. Unfortunately, wasn't able to make those work into his advantage. Lost a little bit of time to the top 2 during that those first few laps. But that is going to be that. So Saudi Arabian Grand Prix done here in Speed Force Racing. And that is going to be the end of the live stream too. Guys, I would like to thank you very much for watching the live stream as usual. My name is Phoebe Thomas. I'm your commentator for Div 2. Make sure to check out my socials if you haven't already. And that was going to be me over. So guys, thank you very much. I will see you guys probably next week. I think I should be there. I'm not 100% sure. But guys, thank you very much, and I'll see you guys next week. Peace out.